Tonight, a COVID shock forces a star bomber out of the AFL finals. New concerns in the western suburbs, Delta spreading in regional towns as Melbourne hits a grim lockdown milestone. 12 to 15-year-olds cleared to get Pfizer jabs. Top jockey Jamie Carr and 3 others fined and banned over an illegal party on the peninsula. The US vowing revenge after a deadly terror attack at the gates of Kabul airport. And AFL finals action just hours away. The latest from the teams live from inside Adelaide Oval.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news on a COVID shock that's just hitting the AFL with a star bomber forced out of the opening round of the finals. Chief football reporter Tom Brown is in Launceston. And Tom, it's a bitter development.
Mike, the Bombers will arrive here in Tasmania for an historic final tomorrow. They'll be without one of their best defenders, Nick Hind. Now, Hind visited the Altona Gate Shopping Centre to Coles to collect lunch, a takeaway lunch, last Saturday, and was advised on Wednesday by the health department that it's a Tier 2 exposure site. Now, since then, he's tested negative, Hind, but under Tasmanian rules, if you've been to a Tier 1 or Tier 2 site in the last 14 days, you cannot enter Tasmania. It's terrible luck for Hind and the Bombers on the eve of the finals. A shock development tonight for Nick Hind. Nick.
Tom Brown, live in Launceston.
Thanks.
Melbourne's western suburbs are the focus of the fight to bring the Delta outbreak under control. Contact tracers are racing to link mystery cases on the day the city recorded a grim milestone.
Melbourne was once the most livable city. Now it's the second most locked down city in the world, overtaking London. 208 days and counting.
The outbreak is significantly bigger now than it was a week ago.
79 new local cases, dozens of mystery infections, and just 19 were in isolation. Health officials are struggling to contain the growing clusters in Melbourne's west.
This is accounting for 60% of our cases today. It's a significant area of concern. We believe multiple chains of transmission.
There are currently 150 active cases of coronavirus spread across the Newport and Wyndham areas. The reason, the government says the western suburbs have a large number of essential and permitted workers.
They're out and about. And then there are other issues about a very small number of some people, and they're not just confined to the western suburbs, who don't follow the rules.
2 staff tested positive at Altona's Borgcraft Food Distribution Centre, now a Tier 1 exposure site, along with Barakat Grocery Store in Hoppers Crossing and the Catch Warehouse in Truganina. Authorities are keeping a close eye on these high-risk workplaces and supply chains with on-site testing. But the virus is still running rampant through homes.
If there's 8, 9, 10 people in a family unit, we're often seeing the virus go through that entire household. That's one of the reasons why this is going on for longer than we would like.
More than 800 locations across the state have been exposed to positive cases as the outbreak spreads further out into regional Victoria. New exposure alerts popped up in Kyabram and Echuca, and locals promptly joined the queues to get tested. Another 10 infections in Shepparton today, bringing their total to 79 cases and 6,000 primary close contacts in isolation. More help arrived for stranded residents.
It's a family of about 6 or 7 in there, so we give them lots of portions.
Urgent supplies and care packages delivered to front doorsteps.
Thankful is not the word, it brought me to tears. So, I very appreciate it.
The emotion that's coming from the families and children when they're coming out to pick up the boxes is absolutely phenomenal.
Where it is that we can bolster, supply and get that relief need as quickly as possible into the hands of the people that need it the most.
And 22 days into lockdown 6, still no hope for a way out.
All Victorians know it still has some way to go.
Jade Vincent at an Altona testing site. And Jade, there's a plea for locals to get tested this weekend.
Yes, Mike, 60% of today's cases are in the western suburbs. That's 46 people infected with COVID. So health authorities are working with the local communities around Newport and with local community leaders urging anyone with symptoms to come forward for testing. Right now tonight here at the Altona North side, it's about an hour-long wait. They've seen around 500 cars come through today, but authorities want to see a much bigger turnout over the weekend to help contain this outbreak. Mike?
Jade, thank you. Children as young as 12 will be able to get the Pfizer vaccine from next month. Health experts say vaccinating the young will slow the transmission of the virus and allow students to get back to school.
Jackie and Odette El Halabi are 12 and 15 years old, currently homeschooled by Mum Myrna.
I wouldn't let them go back to school without the vaccine, at least their first jab.
And soon they can get it, with approval today for 1.2 million 12 to 15-year-olds to book Pfizer vaccinations from Monday, September 13. The government's encouraging parents to book first at their local GP, but children will also be accepted at mass vaccination centres, and school-based vaccination programs are planned for later.
It really provides that extra protection and peace of mind to kids, to parents and to teachers.
The Prime Minister suggesting many would book for the September school holidays.
For the family to go along together across those age groups.
Confident of securing additional Pfizer supplies to meet the added demand.
We have some promising leads in terms of doses.
The aim to vaccinate 12 to 15-year-olds by the end of the year, but they won't be included in the 70 and 80% targets.
I don't see the point of that.
Those targets and the easing of the restrictions they'll trigger dominating National Cabinet today, with updated Doherty Institute advice suggesting the plan can go ahead with community transmissions in the hundreds or even thousands. But the hospitalisations and deaths of unvaccinated people its modelling predicts will come sooner.
It's about opening safely, it's about opening smartly, it's about opening in a way that is phased. It all doesn't happen on one day.
And opening with social distancing and hygiene and testing, tracing and isolating measures still in place.
These goals are within sight. The capacity to achieve that 80% is real and present.
Just what restrictions will be eased at 70 and 80% is still being discussed. But Scott Morrison's hinting that home quarantine for fully vaccinated travellers is on the cards. That's once the 80% target is reached, possibly November.
That sounds like a really good reason to get vaccinated.
Mark Riley, 7 News.
New South Wales has revealed a back-to-school plan for all children later this year, but the Andrews government says it's too early for that. Some wealthy schools are taking vaccination of students into their own hands.
Cassian Reddy should be enjoying his school formal next Friday. Instead, he and his classmates will be vaccinated.
I'm sick of being in my room 24/7 every day, so if I want to get back outside, that's just how I'm going to have to do it, isn't it?
His school, the exclusive St Leonard's College in Brighton East, told parents they're fortunate to be able to offer all Year 12 students the opportunity to receive the Pfizer vaccine at school, believed to be through a local GP.
I think they're extremely proactive, and I'm very, very grateful to them for organising that.
Other private schools, including Albert Park College, are doing the same thing, but not everyone's impressed.
We cannot have a situation where, based on wealth, privilege, who you're connected to, who you know, gets you to the front of the vaccine queue.
The private sector has stepped in here. They are filling the gaps where the government has let down these kids.
In New South Wales, vaccination numbers are dwarfing ours. So, despite 882 new cases announced today, it's back to school soon, with a staggered return to classrooms from October 25. But there's still no timeline in Victoria.
The biggest constraint for that at the moment is the lack of certainty of supply.
The Andrews government is not providing any hope or any plan to Victorian parents, children and their teachers.
The Federal Education Minister says there is hope.
Once we get to that 70% figure, once we get to that 80% figure, the communities can be open again.
Of the 830,000 additional first dose appointments made available in Victoria on Wednesday, just 9,000 are left. But we'll need to step up our jab rate to meet the state government's blitz target of 1 million vaccinations in 5 weeks. Almost halfway in, only a third have been delivered. Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Victoria's racing industry has been rocked by a COVID scandal on the eve of the Spring Carnival. Star jockey Jamie Carr and 3 other riders have been banned for 3 months after they were caught by police at an illegal party.
A queen in the sport of kings. Jamie Carr's reign as Victoria's best jockey is tonight in tatters.
These breaches of the protocols are a kick in the guts to those participants and disrespectful to the broader Victorian community.
Carr and fellow star jockey Ben Melham, along with riders Ethan Brown and Celine Gaudry, were among 6 people caught at a wild, illegal party at a Mornington Airbnb. Police were called after a noise complaint just before midnight Wednesday, all 6 allegedly outside their 5-kilometre zones and in breach of Victoria's lockdown curfew. The 4 jockeys have been banned from racing for 3 months and hit with a $5,452 fine. Pocket change for Carr, who's earned more than $3 million in career prize money. Cleaners were called to the property today, describing the rental as totally trashed.
Unfortunately, 2 of our highest profile jockeys doing something that in effect is irresponsible has put the whole industry in jeopardy.
The 3-month ban couldn't have come at a worse time. Carr will not only miss tomorrow's Group 1 meeting here at Caulfield, but the entire Spring Carnival.
Is it going to hold? And it will for Jamie Carr.
The 25-year-old has apologised, saying she's deeply embarrassed and disappointed. The 4 jockeys have 3 days to lodge an appeal. Georgia Love, 7 News.
There's been a COVID scare at Channel 7's Sunrise studio in Sydney. The Martin Place studios were deep cleaned overnight after a fully vaccinated employee tested positive. Some staff were ordered to quarantine for 14 days, including pregnant news presenter Edwina Bartholomew.
Good news is I went and got a test last night about 7:30 at night, came back this morning at 7 a.m. and it's negative, which is a huge relief.
Other Sunrise presenters have also tested negative. Detectives have made a breakthrough in the hunt for 8 men wanted over violent lockdown protests. Tegan Doling has tonight's developments, and Tegan, police have tracked 2 of them down.
They have, Mike, and with thanks to the public who helped to identify these people. They are still looking for 6 others, though, so they've put out a renewed appeal by putting out these photos to the public. They've also charged 1 man with assaulting police at last Saturday's protest, which the Chief Commissioner has labelled as the most violent in 20 years. As they hunt down protesters, they're also launching a new investigation into online threats being made about members who were working at the rally. Now, 7 News has seen posts where some officers' names as well as other personal information has been distributed online, putting both them and their families at risk. Now, this is called doxing, Mike. It's a very serious offence, and police are throwing a lot of investigators into this to try and hold the extremists to account.
Tegan Doling, thank you. The United States is vowing revenge after an arm of Islamic State murdered 13 American soldiers and dozens of Afghan civilians outside Kabul airport. Australians are being warned it's now too late to leave as thousands return to the airport in a last-ditch attempt to flee the Taliban.
They came to this airport seeking salvation, but evil followed them to the gates. A desperate crowd ripped apart by a suicide bomber. The dead and injured piled at the bottom of this open sewer. It was here at the Abbey Gate where US Marines were screening those coming in that a suicide bomber detonated his vest.
This is close-up work. The breath of the person you are searching is upon you.
A second blast at the nearby Barron Hotel, a key staging point for American and British evacuations, claimed dozens more.
I got a baby girl that she was 5 years old. She died right in my hand.
America's final hours in Afghanistan, the deadliest in a decade. The US president,
a tough day,
vowing retribution for the 13 service members killed and 15 injured.
We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
The group claiming responsibility, ISIS-K, a local offshoot of Iraq's Islamic State. Sworn enemies of the Taliban and America, thousands of their commanders were released from prison in the Taliban takeover. The US and Australia warned of an imminent attack only hours earlier.
We were able to ensure the departure of the remaining Australian personnel over the course of last night, not that long before the terrible events that unfolded last night took place.
Australian evacuation flights from Kabul have ceased. All Australian government personnel have departed Kabul.
It's unclear if there are any Australian citizens or visa holder casualties, but for those left behind, escape for now appears bleak.
To be honest, the opportunities for that will be very restricted.
After a week of legacy-defining decisions, this was the darkest day of Joe Biden's leadership. And soon he'll be faced with the most solemn task of any president, saluting more than a dozen flag-draped coffins as they return to America. The president pushing ahead with evacuations and standing by the August 31st deadline.
These ISIS terrorists will not win.
In Washington, D.C., Ashley Mullaney, 7 News.
It's been a wild ride for the AFL, but we're just over 90 minutes away from the opening bounce of the 2021 finals. The Cats are in hostile territory in Adelaide for the first of the 4 finals this weekend, all a long way from the home of football.
Out of hotel quarantine and free to roam on the Adelaide Oval. The first time Geelong will play in front of a crowd for almost a month, 20,000 strong and hostile. Because Cats, like the Carols, cannot go, stuck in Victoria.
Very hard, very hard. We wish we were there for every game.
Bianca's a contact tracer working on the Sydney outbreak, so footy is a much-needed distraction. Bedrooms, a Cats cornucopia. Pre-COVID birthday visits at home from the Geelong skipper, wedding photos at the Cattery. Watching on TV tonight will test the family's nerves.
Very passionate. Sometimes we have to separate and go into different rooms.
But in Launceston, fans celebrate.
Go Swans!
The Tassie Swans cheer squad and Tassie's most dedicated doggy overjoyed at the state's first finals.
I just love it. I love the colours. I love wearing all the gear.
But Bombers like Chris Burke are grounded in Melbourne.
I'd give everything to be there right now, but circumstances dictate otherwise.
Come on! Unity! He'll bombard his neighbours on Sunday.
Nervous, uncertain, but then when the boys start actually kicking some goals, a madman.
Come on! Proving absence. Come on, Bombers! Makes the heart grow fonder. Come on! Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Oh, a woman after my own heart.
Yeah, sure is. The blockbuster final series kicks off shortly. A very nervous Jackie Felgate. The Cats are in enemy territory.
They certainly are, Mike. Geelong and Port Adelaide face off for a spot in the preliminary final up for grabs. Let's touch base with Theo Doropoulos inside the Adelaide Oval. Hello, Theo. The Cats are hoping to book their ticket to Perth.
They certainly are, Jackie, although they've got one almighty hurdle to jump first. That's the Port Adelaide Football Club and 20,000 screaming fans. You'd hope the Cats maybe have a couple of thousand inside the Adelaide Oval tonight. But it is, of course, really high stakes. The winner jumps on a plane to Perth. They sit and wait in a preliminary final. The loser plays the winner of the Sydney Derby as well. As for the Cats, preparation's been pretty good. They had a little walk around the Adelaide Oval this morning as we saw. Mitch Duncan is the only in that's after missing, more than 2 months with a knee injury. So expect him to come back cherry ripe tonight. Of course, it's so much to play for. The stakes are enormous. You'd think the winner of this probably rockets into premiership favouritism. It is, of course, all ahead of us here tonight. We're just borrowing the finals from Melbourne. You can have them back and you can see it all after the news. We'll have the latest from inside the Cats camp coming up shortly.
Thank you so much, Theo. Also coming up shortly in sport, my buddy Franklin is primed for a huge finals campaign as the Giants predict fireworks in Launceston. And Mike will also have the very latest from the Demons camp.
Exciting. OK, thanks, Jack. A Bayside rapist is finally facing justice after confessing to shocking crimes. Up next, he targeted women on walking tracks. Now his brave victims are speaking out. An act of sabotage sends water cascading down a city apartment building. More gold for our Aussie Paralympians. And later, what to expect in Melbourne's real estate selling season. Plus, the best and worst laundry detergents. Justice has finally caught up with a Bayside sex predator. Justin Matheson ambushed his victims as they walked alone in Elwood. leaving the women traumatised and living a nightmare.
Justin Matheson raped 2 women on Bayside walking paths. His horrific crimes in 2012 sparked an urgent manhunt.
It's only a matter of time before he's going to be located anyway.
But an arrest only came 8 years later. Today, his victims finally able to tell a court the impact of his vile acts. He grabbed me from behind, and that's when the nightmare began. The sound of running feet still causes my heart to pound and fill with fear. Matheson found his second victim 8 months later, telling her, "Don't scream or anything or I'll stab you. Go and get in the bushes." The woman told the court her life was never the same after the assault. Due to anxiety, she withdrew from her friends and now feels she's wasted her best years. I find myself single with no children and declining fertility. This is devastating as a woman to accept. Matheson has pleaded guilty and will be sentenced in October. Estelle Grieping, 7 News.
2 teenagers have been killed and a third is fighting for life in hospital tonight. Their car crashed into a tree on a country road near Warrnambool yesterday afternoon. A 19-year-old woman and 16-year-old boy died at the scene. The driver, 17-year-old girl, is clinging to life at the Alfred. A high-rise apartment building in the city has been sabotaged, sending flooding water cascading down 46 floors. It forced more than 1,000 people onto the street in the middle of the night.
This is what residents were confronted with as they tried to leave their flooding high-rise apartments.
In most fire escapes in the building, there was just flooding all the way down the stairs, like water was pouring down. It looked like a scene from the Titanic.
Water cascading down each staircase from the 49th floor to the 16th.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Causing some pooling in the apartment's foyers.
Obviously we were told to evacuate via the stairwell, so we went to the stairwells, but it was just waterfalls, cascading water. Obviously could not go down there, so that was a bit scary because we didn't really know what we were supposed to do.
More than 1,000 residents forced to wait outside for 7 hours, some unable to go back into their homes.
It was midnight on the streets and we were just trying to work out if we needed to find somewhere to go.
Hearing that it was deliberate is, pretty frustrating.
Police are investigating. They say fire hydrants had been tampered with.
Honestly, it looked biblical.
Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
Australia has enjoyed more gold medal glory on day 3 of the Tokyo Paralympics, led by cyclist Amanda Reid. But now
she smashed her own world record, but so did China's Zhao Zhu. To beat Australia's neuroscience uni student, the 200's still to come, always proving cerebral palsy's no barrier.
I think for me it's about being the best I can be in everything that I do, and this is just one of those things, so it's pretty special.
Last night, 2 bronze medals in the pool, Kira Stevens clinching 3rd place in the 100 breaststroke, but a golden moment captured hearts across the nation. Visually impaired, Katya Dedekind was unaware she'd medalled in the 100 backstroke until told by our poolside reporter Katrina Webb.
Katya, can I tell you you've won a bronze medal? There's tears all around here for all of us.
That's nice.
In Tokyo, Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Puppy scammers are preying on families desperate to get a pet in lockdown. Up next, police have taken action. Their advice on how to avoid a trap. Truck drivers walk off the job, threatening weekend parcel deliveries. Lessons for Melbourne as New York opens up with strict vaccination rules. And how to get your share of $10 billion in unclaimed cash. Detectives have pounced on a puppy scammer, accusing her of using fake designer dogs to con victims. Now police have a warning to other Melbourne families on how to avoid being fooled.
They were promised this British bulldog. Instead, Andrea Payton and her daughter were scammed of more than $7,000.
The biggest hurdle for me was, having to explain to Arden that the pup that I'd promised her for her birthday wasn't coming.
Everything seemed above board until the breeder demanded more money for travel insurance.
They started to get really aggressive, and that was when I knew I'd been scammed.
Late yesterday, detectives arrested a 42-year-old woman at a Blairgowrie address. She's accused of stealing more than $30,000 from 5 victims, including Ms. Payton.
She used a number of online websites created specifically to sell French Bulldog puppies. Through there was communication via emails. These websites have now been shut down.
Police are urging families looking at buying a pet to do their research first. Always ask to see the animal in person or via FaceTime, and search the breeder's registration number online.
Speak to people that have bought from the breeder before.
Undeterred, the Knoxfield family, now the proud owners of a rescued pug.
Every dog gets their day. So, justice is served. The karma train has come back to her.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Weekend parcel deliveries are likely to be delayed after thousands of truck drivers walked off the job. The toll workers are negotiating better paying conditions, promising if demands aren't met, there'll be more strikes to come.
Row after row, delivery trucks sit idle, out of action at Australia's largest transport company, Toll.
For us to be not fatigued and safe, we need to have a decent living, working decent hours. During COVID, we worked. We risked our health, our families.
Striking across the country. Today, thousands of toll truck drivers didn't show up to work.
Our jobs are directly under attack. These individuals will not be receiving the same conditions as a toll employee. It's not right.
Toll under fire for putting short-term contracts on the table, pushing to contract out 40% of work in each state and territory.
We've given a very competitive and compelling job offer to increase their wages, and we want our workforce to have a pay increase.
All this as the industry deals with exponential pandemic demand and its own vaccine hesitancy.
It's your body. The government don't own your body.
Workers say regulation is the answer, and they could get it. A Senate report tabled last night recommends an independent body implement universal and binding standards for transport supply chains. The strike ends at midnight. Isabel Mullen, 7 News.
A 25-year-old man's been charged over a fatal hit run 2 years ago in the state's northeast. Mount Dunedin footballer Jordan Purcell was struck on a road in Alexandra in June 2019 and died on the way to hospital. After a long investigation, the driver is facing a string of charges, including culpable driving causing death. He's on bail to face court next week. New York City felt the full force of COVID-19 last year, but now Manhattan is returning to normal life. Angela Cox looks at how the city is learning to live with COVID.
Mike, once the epicentre of the pandemic in 2020, the virus raged through New York City. During last year's peak, the city recorded over 6,000 cases a day. Similar numbers again in January 2021. Now the daily average sits at over 1,000, just slightly higher than Sydney's current tally. On New York's deadliest day, back in April 2020, 815 residents succumbed to the disease. Now, around 6 people die a day. And hospital admissions are down from 18,000 New Yorkers a day to around 80 now. Currently, the city has 68% of adult residents vaccinated, a number authorities hope to boost with some strict new rules. Ahead of the new school term in September, staff at the city's public schools have been given no option but to get vaccinated. Furthermore, all staff and customers at restaurants, gyms, museums, theatres and cinemas must have had at least 1 dose. You can only show a negative test result instead if you have a valid reason not to get vaccinated. So as Central Park and Madison Square Garden kick off their concert season and Broadway prepares to lift the curtains again in September, the city that never sleeps is waking up. Mike.
Thanks, Ange. Most Australians wouldn't know it, but there's $10 billion worth of money and unclaimed government benefits up for grabs. Now a free banking app is helping people cash in.
COVID has proven a recipe for disaster for business owner Vicky Uriarty. But thanks to a notification on her mobile phone, her doors remain open.
You can just go click straight to a link and find exactly what you need.
Vicky used the benefits feature within the CommBank app to apply for 2 grants.
The result was brilliant. Our $15,000 grant just came through.
The bank reports a 150% surge in applications in the last month.
Over the last year, we've identified over 320 benefits that are available to Australians across the states and territories, some personal, some business. Many people just don't know that they exist.
Those using the bank's benefit finder are targeting unclaimed money in old bank accounts and insurance policies. More than 210,000 claims launched. And Centrelink's COVID-19 disaster payment, worth up to $750 a week, more than 80,000 new claims. Every year across Australia, an estimated $10 billion in benefits and government grants goes unclaimed. It's money people are entitled to, but many just need help to get their hands on it. It's a bit like buried treasure. You have to know where to dig. Ashley Hansen, 7 News.
Melbourne is in for a spring property surge. Up next, experts reveal what to expect in the selling season. Plus, the rarest of rare Holdens expected to sell for up to $10 million. And laundry detergents put to the test with a surprise result. Police need the public's help to find a young woman missing in Melbourne's outer east. 20-year-old Yasmina was last seen in Bridges Avenue in Mooroolbark yesterday. She's non-verbal and has a habit of hiding. If you see her, call 000. The ongoing lockdown is threatening home buyers' hopes of a surge in property listings come spring. Real estate agents are now putting forward a plan to ease some restrictions and give some certainty to sellers.
The spring selling season is almost here and prospective buyers are ready and waiting.
We've got clients lined up, ready to go.
Spring is a time when traditionally sellers are eager to sell and properties flood the market. It puts buyers in the box seat and gives them one thing they haven't had much of this year, choice.
Hope so. Really do hope so.
But for first home buyer Antoinette Gredick, the lockdown is standing in her way. In-person inspections and live auctions are banned.
We're not going to buy sight unseen.
They're still doing online auctions, which is still getting sales for vendors, but can be quite dangerous for buyers.
As revealed in tomorrow's Herald Sun Spring Market preview, Lockdown 6 has forced 2,000 auctions to be postponed. And while Spring Saturdays normally pack in 1,000 auctions, next Saturday there are only 500 scheduled.
Until we can actually take people through properties, we just don't know what the next month, 2 months is actually going to look like.
Real estate agents are now calling for restrictions to be eased to allow for face-to-face inspections to keep the sales momentum going during lockdown.
The biggest thing they could do for us right now is just to allow us to do one-on-one inspections.
It's been very deflating as it is now anyway, so I suppose we'll be even more deflated really the longer it takes.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Now to the most expensive set of rare Holdens ever up for grabs. Lloyd's Auctions have just opened bidding on these elusive models, one still wrapped in plastic. They're expected to fetch $10 million.
They're rare builds, one of one or one of four.
There's a ute with just 19 kilometres on the clock. That's in addition to a VS GTR and a coupe prototype. The team at Choice has carried out dozens of stain tests to find Australia's best laundry detergent. Supermarket brands are the real surprise, giving the big names a run for their money at a fraction of the price.
How's this for a hot mess?
Olive oil, blood, chocolate ice cream. We also throw in a bit of tomato just for good measure.
All in a bid to see what cleans up on Australia's worst stains.
Spaghetti bolognese. Strawberries.
The white coat crew in the Big Choice lab have put 100 detergents to the test. And
disc and capsule systems are scoring really well.
For front loaders, it's a tie. Capsules from Coles and Dynamo both topped out at 85%. The only difference, price. 86 cents a wash for Dynamo, half that for Coles, but it gets even better. Close behind is Aldi's Trimat liquid, just 13 cents.
Another surprise that we saw was just how well the laundry liquids have improved.
But for top loaders, which use more water, making detergents less effective, go powder. Coles Lemon Fresh is best at 15 cents a wash.
Price is not necessarily an indicator of performance.
But what if you don't use any detergent at all? Throw in your clothes and just add water. For front loaders, cold water alone scored 51%. For top loaders, 41%. And that's actually better than some detergents like True Earth Eco Strips at 40%.
I'm not quite sure how that's possible.
A couple of other choice tips. You can get a great wash using just half a scoop or capful. And don't bother with softener. It can do more harm than good.
Just ditch it.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Sport now with Jackie Felgate. And Jack, I don't need to tell you this, the Cats can take a huge step in their premiership quest tonight.
They can, Mike. No pressure at all. Geelong went all in over the off-season to be in this position. And it's all on the line tonight with 22 up against 20,000 in Adelaide. The dogged determination behind Melbourne's fairy tale finals quest. The Swans and the Giants under lock and key will Buddy break the shackles in Launceston. And the tricky start for Ash Barty's US Open campaign. Welcome back. We're just an hour away from the start of the 2021 finals series, with the Cats facing Port for a spot in the preliminary final. Returning to Theo Doropoulos inside Adelaide Oval. Hello again, Theo. The countdown is on.
Yeah, it certainly is, Jack. The Cats are going to have to do something they haven't done since July. That's play in front of a crowd of people. Very lucky here in South Australia. They'll be outnumbered though. 20,000 screaming Port Adelaide fans will be on top of them, although the Cats won't shrink on this big occasion, you wouldn't have thought. Now, just the one change, Mitch Duncan comes in after missing almost 2 months with that knee problem. Preparation's been pretty good for Geelong. Earlier we got the last word from Simon Lloyd. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, we've missed it. So football without people is not football, and it's something that we've been craving for a long period of time, and it's great to be here. Both teams are in very good form, and I think tonight will be a really contested game. It'll be the battle of the midfields.
Well, a sense of deja vu, isn't it? We were here this time last year, the qualifying final, the Power getting up by 16 points. Conditions are absolutely perfect. It'll be a dry night, and it's all ahead of us right after the news, Jackie.
Yeah, we're very jealous indeed. Enjoy the game. Thank you, Theo. Essendon will roll the dice with a highly rated young recruit for Sunday's elimination final. Laura Spurway has the details. Laura, Jai Caldwell has been given the green light to face the Dogs.
Jackie, he's impressed in recent scratch matches and now returns to the big stage to play his first AFL game since a hamstring injury in round 2. Now, the Bombers clearly rate Caldwell. They picked him up in a trade from GWS last year. Martin Gleeson also grabs a spot for Nick Hind, who can't travel, while more teams hit the road today.
Die-hard D's desperate to sniff out one last glimpse of their minor premiers. Melbourne already has some silverware. The Rising Star Award.
It's just a real privilege to be at Melbourne right now and the time we're at right now as a club.
Luke Jackson ditched a career in basketball in favour of the Sherrin, and so far it's paid off.
I still love my basketball and love watching and playing it, but footy's definitely been the right choice for me, I reckon.
A record 5 Demons earned a spot in the All-Australian side. Max Gawn named captain.
It certainly wasn't something I was thinking I was going to get in the early parts of my career, but I really love leading. I really love being the captain of this club.
Melbourne has the edge going into tomorrow night's game, having defeated the Lions in round 12. But both teams will be subject to strict quarantine arrangements once they touch down. The D's will get to stretch their legs on Adelaide Oval tomorrow after undergoing COVID tests, starting what they hope is a long stint on the road, even if something more special is on the way.
I've told Jess that I've been planning to be a premiership player a long time before I was planning to be a dad, so the premiership comes first.
Laura Spurway, 7 News.
Be in trouble with that one, Max. Western Australia is dealing with a fresh COVID drama tonight. Returning to Chief Footy reporter Tom Brown. Good evening, Tom. What does this mean for the AFL's grand final plans?
Jack, this is a developing story. 2 truck drivers in WA tonight testing positive for COVID. They're from New South Wales and have been sleeping in their cabins. At this stage, there's 4 exposure sites. The closest is about 300 k's outside Perth. That's currently in 4 close contacts. Now, Jack, we know that Melbourne and Geelong at the conclusion of this weekend will go to Perth. We know the AFL's planning on semi, preliminary and the grand final, the big one in Perth. The AFL obviously monitoring the situation. They'll obviously monitor it over the weekend. They don't seem overly worried at this stage. Launceston, though, the centre of two historic finals this weekend. After 12 weeks on the road, dodging border closures and COVID lockdowns, Launceston is the unlikely stage for the Swans and Giants elimination final.
We don't just want to win one final, we want to win a number of them that starts this week.
We've got everything to lose. We're in a cutthroat final.
All four finals teams to stay in a lockdown country club with security and a mini ring of steel. Launceston a happy hunting ground for Buddy Franklin.
13!
He needs 8 majors to reach a magical 1,000 goals.
I hope he gets there. If he gets there, we'll go a long way to winning.
Probably doing a good job on Buddy is keeping him to 3 or 4 goals. He's kicked goals against us for 5 or 6 years. He's a superstar.
He's such an important part to not only on the field but off field. His leadership. He actually hangs out with all us young boys because he's like a big kid.
A crosstown rivalry with a fiery history.
If you go too far, it can really cost you. If you're a little bit off that and you're waiting, then it can cost you as well. So trying to hit that right mark is exactly what you're trying to do. I've got great faith and trust that our boys will be able to find that line.
At Carlton, Ross Lyon is an unbackable favourite for their coaching vacancy. Behind the scenes, President Luke Sayers has already done extensive backgrounding, calling Lyon last night.
I did have a conversation with Ross last night, a general conversation for about 45 minutes, and Ross is excited to put his hat in the ring.
The Blues set to land Adam Shearer, his manager's big condition to Carlton. They'll have to give up pick 6. The Dockers won't budge. Tom Brown, 7 News.
Ash Barty is favourite heading into next week's US Open, but she's got a big challenge first up. The world number 1 takes on former finalist Vera Zvonareva in the opening round as Barty seeks her 3rd Grand Slam title. She'll do so in style, Fila unveiling the outfit she'll wear, celebrating their 110th anniversary. It is a very big night at the footy tonight. Such a shame we're not going to be there, but luckily we can watch it all on the telly.
Oh, it's very exciting and a bit of a worry what's going on in WA.
Indeed. He's known to close those borders very quickly, so let's hope they can sort it out.
Keep an eye on that. OK, thanks, Jack. Melina Saras is next with the forecast. And Mel, how's the weekend looking?
Well, Mike, tomorrow will be lovely. Plenty of sunshine, but showers move in for a cooler Sunday. I'll have all of those details right after the break. It's been a grey end to the week, but Saturday will bring plenty of sunshine, and we've got a touch of yellow in the studio tonight to support the Cancer Council's Daffodil Day appeal. In the city, we only made it to 13.6 degrees today, following a chilly start of 4.6. Calm and clear conditions overnight bring us those cool mornings, and that is thanks to a high extending a ridge over Victoria. The ridge will move east as a weakening front reaches Western Victoria at night. Around the nation for tomorrow, it is sunny in Brisbane, partly cloudy in Sydney and Perth, a shower or two developing in Adelaide and cloudy in Hobart. It'll be another chilly start for Victoria with widespread morning frost and temperatures below 0 in some parts of the state. It'll be -1 at Bendigo, 0 in Ballarat and Shepparton. We will start with sunshine, but cloud will increase from the west with isolated showers developing across the west and the north in the evening. With light to moderate northeasterly winds, it'll be mild and most areas should make it into the mid to high teens. Closer in, we'll have areas of fog and frost tomorrow morning, mainly around the outer suburbs, and it'll be another chilly start down to 1 at Avalon and Yarra Glen, but then a mostly sunny day, and there will be plenty of sunshine in the city tomorrow as well. 5 degrees to start, but we should reach 18 degrees. The showers move in on Sunday and the temperature drops as well, 14. Monday is partly cloudy and 17, partly cloudy and windy on Tuesday, 21. But it is warming up for the first few days of spring. Wednesday is mostly sunny, 24 degrees, sunny and 25 on Thursday, but a change arrives later on Friday, a top of 25 with a shower or two developing, but mild with plenty of sunshine in the city tomorrow. We are heading for a top of 18 and we have some beautiful bunches of yellow daffodils in the studio with us tonight. We are supporting a very important cause, the Cancer Council's Daffodil Day appeal, raising money for life-saving cancer treatment. You can donate by heading to the Cancer Council's website.
Great cause. Thanks, Mel. And that's 7 News. Let's head to Adelaide for the huge qualifying final between Port Adelaide and Geelong. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.